Hello everybody, we've decided to come on and mirror an interview that Ceres had last night with Realm Media. What's going to happen is that he's going to play the video and then maybe there's a few questions at the end, but anyway, Ceres, over to you. Ceres?
Yeah, sorry.
There's no volume, Ceres.
No, there is no volume in this video in the beginning.
Right, okay.
Happy Friday, everybody. TGIF, thank God it's flat. My name is Josh Corey. You're listening to RERUN Media's Flat Earth Friday Fringecast. Today is October 27th, 2017, and just off the top of my head, today is the 300th day of the year, giving us 65 days left. Just if anybody asks, now you can tell them. Let's see. We have quite a show for everybody this week. Coming up in the first half, we have the Sun and Moon group discussing this crazy map they've got going on. And, you know, I've been so busy doing other stuff, I've not even had a chance to really delve into it. I know Adam has, I think John's had a chance to look at it, but I'm going to need to have Ceres tell me exactly what in the world he's got going on here, because he is just constantly working. So busy all the time. He and Karen both.
Josh.
Well, hello, Adam. Yes. Why don't you say hello?
Sorry, you dropped out there. I don't know if I heard you there at all.
That's a good question. Who knows?
I'm sorry, dude. No more panicked. But suddenly you weren't there.
I know we all dead air, so yeah, so we're probably all over each other on that. That's beautiful. So welcome to Flat Friday. It wouldn't be Flat Friday if we didn't have fun technical issues.
Yeah, I have no reason why I would have dropped. I see nothing. Everything is green. No dropped frames. Who knows? You know, we had such a good show this morning.
What, you're not live yet?
No, we're live.
Oh, right.
But for some reason, I just didn't transfer over there, and now everybody can see. For some reason, I thought I had transitioned to our live screen and not just that GIF that was there. So, hello everybody. I see Alba's in chat. We are waking up. Mr. Paul on the plane, Alba. I see Flat Earth is in there. That's a heck of a name. Nice, simple, straightforward. Luke Marshall, he's in chat. Ranty. That's right, Ranty. No trolls in here just yet. I would expect the trolls to come just after 6 o'clock. Usually around 6:30 is when the trolls show up.
The trolling hour.
Yeah, that's the trolling hour. So, who else do we have in here? We have Adam and we have Walt. Walt, you want to say hello?
Hello. Hi, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. I've had a great week. Hope you are having a wonderful week. We have some great friends with us. Can't wait to say hello to them. Adam, really quick, how are you, sir?
All good, mate. Still going, so I can't complain.
I just lost Ceres.
I saw Ceres will be back. He had to bail out. But we also have with us Sun and Moon group. Karen, you want to tell everybody hello?
Everybody, Sun and Moon group. I'm Karen.
I love it. And Ceres is here. He just dropped out momentarily. I suspect he will be along before too long, hopefully.
Yeah.
So a quick question. Did we lose the sun or the moon there?
The moon.
There we go. Too good.
So let's see. Before we get too started, we'll give the series a chance to jump back in here. What has happened since last Friday is Walt and I have done a couple more shows on TFR, both of which I think went swimmingly. So that's going really well. We actually were able to take our first live caller this morning, which was really nice. It was quite the experience. What was that, Walt?
Like Big Boys. I know it was like a grown-up show. Well, it's like we knew what we were doing.
Well, you know, that's the trick. You have to act as if. If you don't know what you're doing, at
Fake it
least
till you make it.
fake it till you make it.
We had a blast. It's been a great time. The guys have come and chat. They've been with us. We actually had one of them call. We actually took a live call on the air, so that was exciting. Our first call went well. We actually had no technical issues at TFR. So apparently, if you do something late at night, like 4 in the morning, they can't find you. They can't take you out.
Well, I will say this, that Chris Geo and the Truth Frequency Radio is number 89 on the United States government's top 100 most hit list for fake news sites. So
There it is.
at least we can put that on our resume.
See, we're in good company. And we really are, y'all. I mean, the team over there is amazing. It's, I mean, filled with flat earthers that you already know and love. We're just stragglers, newcomers, trying to find our own way in there. And there's an amazing array of people who are totally not flat earth. We hope to have Ben Hameen here in a short while on the show. We're shooting out email to him, and or Josh could probably ask him this weekend, maybe. So we'll hopefully have him on.
Well, yeah, here's the deal.
We had Rick Valentine on before, but we had a little brief technical issue last time he was here with a few troubles showing up. So we definitely want to get him back on soon, too. That's there at TFR as welcome anytime to Iron Rail Media.
If Ben Hameen comes on, guys, right? I did, as a young boy, enjoy WWF, as it was called back then. And I always do remember the ring announcement for D-Generation X. So if he comes on, I'll do it, I promise.
Amazing.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that one.
Well, I will tell you this much. Ben Hameen announced it to his audience over on the Conspiracy Horseman podcast over at hackerhameen.podbean.com as he will be coming on Iron Realm Media. So, as it stands, November, the first Friday in November, he cannot do because he has a show on Saturday. So he spends Friday night, you know, mentally preparing. So we won't expect him on the first Friday in November. So the second Friday, I think, is the 10th. That Friday, we have the guest Alan Park, who's a comedian in Canada, who fought and won.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that too. Alan Park fought against and won stage 4 prostate cancer through the Phoenix Tears and cannabis oil drops. So we are going to have him on November 10th to discuss his journey and how he found health and the alternative healthcare and how he came to rely basically on these Phoenix Tears. So that's really going to be exciting. But hopefully that third Friday after Alan Park, I'm thinking we could probably get Ben Hameen. And if not that Friday, one of the last Fridays in November. I'm suspecting that it could be one of those Fridays in November that we'll get Ben Hameen on.
Awesome.
And I think that will be awesome because I was a big WWF fan too. Way back in the day.
Let's go to our guest.
Yes. So I just want to add one more thing before they jump in, and maybe it's something they might want to comment on. Because with regards to the Alan Park, I mean, I don't know if anybody out there knows, my dad was also diagnosed with prostate cancer, underwent some of the conventional treatments and has been set free from conventional medicine. And I know people may think I have a real strange paradigm of the job I do and that, but we were lucky enough to know somebody that was able to help him in a similar way to Alan. Alan, just kind of realised that. But similar things. So I genuinely, I'm really looking forward to discussing that with somebody who's been there, seen it, done it, and been through it as a family like we have.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it too. I think it's going to be a great, great interview. So that being said, I do believe Sirius has joined us. He is back with us. So
yeah, I tried to stream and that completely hang up my PC somehow. So I stopped that part.
well, you know, when you try to stream Iron Realm Media, you can expect strange things to happen. Because if they're not going to step on us, they're going to step on you, if not both of us.
I kind of have more a memory and a CPU problem with Blender in the background.
Well, yeah, Blender is pretty resource heavy. So that being said, I mentioned before that I've not really had a chance to take a look at any of your work. And my sincerest apologies. I have been trying to produce and post a few shows, which takes up a whole lot of time. But that being said, I want to start off with just the very basics. Because look, Adam spent a whole lot of time investing in this new curvature formula so that we can all get an accurate, pinpoint accurate number for curvature of this ball that doesn't really exist, right? So all that work is really for this theoretical concept.
That made all that was sound really pointless. Thanks, mate. Well, correct, but
I wouldn't say pointless.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Out of an amazing mathematical genius to show the curvature that we've been given, the formula is wrong, but to show these people the actual amount that it is missing. That would be more accurate, I believe, but you go right ahead, Adam. Sorry.
no, I think that's the point, mate, and that was the purpose of it, to demonstrate what is being suggested, because sometimes it appears to be difficult to believe, and with the 8 inches per mile, that obviously did run out, as we said, at 100 miles, and particularly some of the pictures you see in mountain shots and that, they really are demonstrating there is no curvature, and the point of that was to give people the ability to calculate simply, in my opinion. Rob would disagree. Nice to see you here, dude.
Hello everyone. Sorry I was late.
Hello, Rob.
Hello.
Hey, Rob. How you doing, man? Welcome.
I'm good. Only got one story this week. Well, I'll let you go. Keep going, Adam.
No, we were just waffling. We're just introducing the guys from Sun and Moon Group, Zeres and Karen. So we were just on about the pointlessness of my math curvature, in that actually there is no curvature. So it's just
it's perfect. What's perfect? That's the difference with yours. Is it's absolutely spot on. It works the whole way around the curve, where the 8 inch formula doesn't. So no, in my opinion, Adams is perfect.
So my question for Sirius right off the bat, this map that you're creating, I've seen a lot of the graphics you've put out there. So is this map what you're creating? Are you trying to recreate an actual representation of where we live, or are you trying to create an actual representation of where they're telling us we live, for comparison's sake?
Yeah. Well, I figured they have the data. They just tell something else. What the data doesn't show. And so far, I figured with the data, it's kind of we try also to create a world out of the sky. As in that the sky is the celestial sphere around us. And individually we see that bubble, and in a sense that it is a cupola over us, suggesting that the land should be curved as well in a globe or something else. But I figured we forget ourselves in between. Oh, I'm getting an echo.
Somebody needs to mute.
With gathering this data, I found that you can't really transform it from the raw material it is into anything but where it comes in, and that is the actual square they show it in. And to create the GPS map for the 360 around and 180 degrees overlay of a ball, they created a particular function to transform the data into the GPS map. But they leave out in the photographic square, they leave out the last 5 degrees latitude in minus and plus, last between 85 and 90. And keeping the photographic dimension intact and get data out of the elevation surface of Google Maps through GPS coordinates, what are coming out of the XY coordinates for the photographic dimensions, to get the elevation out of GPS into the photographic dimensions. They have a particular wave function in that in the north and the south, you actually push practically 2/3 of that square into an infinite small dot or line when you actually use the GPS square. And the data itself, the elevation itself, shows way too much detail to come out of there. It's just simply not possible to create that much detail in mathematical sense. And because of this, I figured the sky and of the heavens and the earth are two separate creations, as Genesis actually says and names them separately. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And
Series, can I interrupt? Is that
right?
just for my own clarity? Before we get on to that, you're describing how you've extrapolated data from Google Earth and stuff, yeah. And you're saying there's a discrepancy, a 5 degree. Can you just explain that a little bit more to me? Because I'm not fully understanding what you mean there.
Yeah, we'll open a particular image for that.
We need little videos, don't we? Need like part 1, part 2, part 3.
We all do, mate. I'm just
Right, exactly.
You know, trying to grasp how the map has been constructed, and so outside of the discrepancy you're describing, what have you filled something in, or have you added something, or taken something, or have you taken the raw data, even though you're saying
I just try to put the raw data together.
Right, cool. That's what I'm just trying to grasp. Whatever. But you've put the raw data together, but what?
If the photograph is matching my own location, then I take that as my personal reality, on empirical level.
Okay.
Well, that's cool. So,
because I know my house is my house, my neighborhood is my neighborhood. In that sense, my city is my city. I know my city. In that sense, yeah, that's exactly what it is on the photo. So I take that as what reality is. And then when you put all the photographs together, well, at least up till level 8, you have the whole world still, including the seas. At some point, they're deleting the whole sea areas. And from, what is it, level 12, they begin to remove land as well, especially north and south. And later they begin to remove the forests, the big forests in etc., the rainforest and such.
Right. So are you suggesting that as you zoom out on Google Earth, there's a kind of level of shaving of each picture that they put together?
Nothing's bent.
No, but so to create.
No, what they do is show you the photograph right in your face, but once you zoom out, at some point you won't see the detail anymore. And from that moment, they kind of morph it into the projection of the ball.
Right, so that's exactly what I'm suggesting.
When I do that, when I do that myself, but then with the small image on level 20, that image is completely distorted. It is no longer my reality. So I start with a square reality in that sense. And I can't move it, put it on anything else but the square it comes in. My empirical detail. And if you ask me, it doesn't matter where anyone is, as soon as they have that picture and of their own location, and we transform it in first in the GPS map, which you see below in this image, and then onto a ball or circle. In the first step already, we have such a distortion through the latitudinal wave function they use to transform this triple square data into a double square GPS map. And from this GPS map, anything else is created.
Okay, did you lay it into this square, or is this just what it became from that raw data you put into your
system of it? The second step is destroying the longitudinal distance, which you see here in the image. In the top, I turned it to the right, so it actually fitted the block to oversee it. What you can see is the wave and how it overlaps the square in the middle, and that middle square is what Google only shows. Anything beyond there, they don't show. That is that particular 5 latitude, what you can see in the wave. In the top one, you see it in displayed over the x-axis, and according to the horizontal is the y-axis, and then the wave itself is the latitudinal value, what I display there.
Nick,
And
can
image below there is.
Can I define what that means? For a second, are you saying that
Sorry?
is that some form of sine wave that's the third picture down? You're saying that represents the distortion.
That is, yeah, that is exactly the same wave, but then seen from the GPS map. And I don't display the latitude value, but the Y value. It's then the other way around. And then you get a similar wave, but it is orientated the other way.
So there's a distortion on the y-axis. Is that what you're saying? That sine wave, that wave is representative of the distortion.
The latitudinal direction is distorted in the first step.
On the y-axis of the graph that you're then demonstrating in the fourth picture.
Those pictures, the one that's on its side,
that creates a GPS map.
And the one on the bottom is what they squish it to, and they lose all that information. That's what it should look like, and they turn it into the bottom one.
So you're saying the bottom map is created by a straightening of the sine function wave of the y-axis that you're showing in the third picture?
Yeah, and in the top you see the latitude version, and then the second wave is just the y, that you see from the latitude. It's the GPS is the bottom part, and the top part is the photographic square.
So
they store their images in X, Y, Z values. Sorry?
Yeah. That's exactly what it relates to, the Z value. So I can see from the wave function you put there that there's different colours. It's not straight a straight one coloured line. Is that implying a functional change on the z-axis as well, or?
No, there's nothing with the z-axis other than the color of the elevation, and that's where you see the rest of the colors coming from.
Okay, thanks, man. Cheers.
What I did was first download the imagery data, and figuring out that I missed the whole block beyond the north and the south, I extrapolated all the elevation data out of the GPS coordinates back into the photographic square the other way around. That's square. And if you look at the wave itself, it stops kind of halfway the square, in the second square beyond, and everything beyond there is just one single pixel. And then you see the image below there with, in left to south, a particular wave there, and in the north, way too much detail. And if you project that also on a ball, then you end up with even a single infinite pixel. Pixel in infinity.
Can I clarify that point there, Zarius, then? When you say way too much detail, do you mean when you zoom in, there's nothing there, like we do if we do zoom in on?
There should not be nothing there. If the reality is coming from the ball,
yeah,
or at least the GPS map, the GPS square, you can't get this data out of that reality because it's simply just one point, just scanning a micrometer into all that detail in the north.
So you're saying this is the equivalent version of a standard square at the equator per square at the north on that fourth map, in terms of the actual data information contained in the square?
Sure.
So the top image there, and I know I missed the start, so I'm very, very sorry for that. What is that formed from in the first place? What sort of image is that? I just see a couple of people in chat not quite understanding as well. It may be because I
begin with the photographic square. And if you put that in the GPS format, you actually miss the last 5 degrees in north and south, or the GPS map. That was also missing photographic data, so I needed something to fill in that area, and coordinate system. I managed to translate that back into the square dimension of the photograph. And by putting the elevation data in there, I discovered that there was way more than should be possible through this particular wave function.
Can I interject again? Oh, sorry, Karen.
Yeah.
That is the data.
East-west looping.
And it's squished. They squish everything down to make the ball. They get rid of 2/3 of Antarctica and 2/3 of the north, and they squish it right down and lose all this natural data, what it naturally is, by trying to make the ball. You know how they do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can
it's like if you take a
square data, what I have here. If I transform all this square data into the GPS map, I can't create this square data back from the GPS map. So once I translate it into the direction of the GPS, 101, then I practically destroy 2/3 of the data.
Okay, can I ask another quick question?
It's impossible to translate it back. This data can't come out of the GPS format or a ball or a circle.
The reason it's looped is he's got this off of Google Maps. Google Maps do just that. They loop everything. We're storing compass readings on Google Maps Unfortunately, it is Google Maps, but Series couldn't go in and uncode it and all that. And we needed somewhere to store our readings. When I go to Google Maps to show the readings, I can simulate it. You always get pictures like that on it. So they loop it.
Can I ask a couple of clarity questions, please? Because I get what you're saying, and I understand the concept what you're saying, Karen. I'm trying to get a little bit more clarity on some of the detail about the data and how it's extracted. So I can see that there is that I can comprehend the concept of how you can compact the data in a widthwise way to extrapolate it out to a certain width based on the shape of the ball from GPS, etc. But I'm not comprehending how you extrapolate such a big width, both north and south, and how that would be derived in terms of length for any compacted data you would have, or how basically how are the parameters of the north and south, those fractal patterns you're showing, how are they derived? And secondly, why are they fractal patterns, north and south?
Yeah, it is practically a fractal. Yeah. What I figured is the data is just straight out of reality. And they store it in that square format, but they give you only access through the GPS coordinate system. And that's how I actually managed to get this one elevation data also into this image. Just by taking the XY coordinates on the map of a particular pixel in a particular zoom level and transform that into the GPS coordinates of elevation services, getting from them the elevation information of that particular GPS coordinate, and put that back into the XY coordinate, what is on the map. Build up pixel for pixel the elevation data of the square. And what I figure is they store this data actually in the normal square, because it can't be otherwise be stored with it. I can't get it out of this that infinity thing where we work with the wave. It's practically impossible to get this data out of a ball. And but if it is out of the square, then I have actually just 3 squares of data in the middle of the photograph, and then north and south only the elevation.
Please, will you just explain the
And
different
also
colours?
from the middle of the elevation.
Series, the colours.
Yeah, the
Will you explain?
Yeah, the colors I just chose to get as much visible detail from the elevation, so I could actually see what was happening in there. If you look at Google Maps, the blues, yeah, you can't really see what is happening. And then if you take then the all separate color lines, the more you zoom in, the more detail you get.
Can you point out some things that we might know that we're looking at, like countries or anything like that? Just so
we know anything.
This is the world what we know in Google Maps.
Before we get on to Ireland's
elevation data.
I'm sorry. What was that, Adam? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, guys. I've got a million questions. So and it's born out of trying to comprehend the model, how it's derived and stuff. You describe the north and south as having a lot more data. Now, and excuse my ignorance because I'm not techie like that. As I look at those 2 fractal patterns, top and bottom, and then the map in the middle, I would think that there's less data in the top and bottom patterns than there is in the middle details. I mean,
if you zoom into that, is there more shown, or is it I don't know.
It equals more out in height. Until the half of the square in the top, you see the most detail, and then it's kind of morphing into an extra. There is at the edge in the north or the south no indication of that it actually ends there, other than that the data itself ends, because I can't go beyond the 90 degrees through the GPS coordinates.
Right.
Technically, that's at the 90 degrees.
One final clarifying question, and I'll hand over to Walt, because I know he's got a million questions as well, guys. Just to clarify, the data that you've extracted, though, the north and south points from, it's not GPS data. It's pulled from exactly where?
Via GPS.
Can I just say that
they store it themselves exactly as they store the images. Just the XY coordinates of what it is. There are several ways to get the elevation data, even on SIBA.
So that's the whole strip of data from the GPS. So I know.
Yeah, the only way they make it available is through the GPS.
Yeah.
But that also, because they have their own formula to translate the GPS coordinates into the XY coordinates and back again from the XY to the GPS, I actually can translate the GPS information back into the square data. And because the photograph is the square data, I take the square dimensions, the photographic dimensions, as reality. So I started with the photograph. As you know, my city is my city. And then when I glue all the images together in the deeper zoom level, I end up again with the mean square. And then in an east-west looping. I guess many have missed the free energy material about the fourth dimensional space loop and how that practically works.
We want to get onto that, but that's more the next set of questions. But I just want to kind of get. So I've got one. I know I promised. Well, but I've got one final question, and that comes back to the translation of the GPS data back to a 4-grid square is describing as reality. And with that in mind, as I look at that, the issue I have is Africa and Greenland. How are you viewing that?
How do we know that what they say is true?
Okay.
You can say that it's smaller, but I don't know. We don't believe practically anything about the globe anymore. So how can we be sure that the photograph isn't the photograph? But it's right in our face.
No, totally take that point. I'm just saying.
I go on what the photograph says me, because that's what I take as the raw reality, not what they say about it. They can say anything.
I'm happy with it, because Rob's back down in the bottom left corner on a little island. So, bottom right, sorry.
He's found. That's what is there.
All I know is my country, which I've driven up and down the coast.
Was to figure out what.
That's the same. It feels the same when my coastline is going east. I know I'm heading east because the map says it. Australia to me, the map feels right. I've driven it. It feels all right. So yeah, that's my reality. But that's just Australia. I haven't been anywhere to test anything else. But yeah, the east coast of Australia for me, it seems right when the map tells me that I'm heading east. I'm heading towards the sun, and it just all feels right. So the Australian map for me feels right. The size of it feels right because of how long it takes you to drive from north to south, which I've done. Yeah, that's my reality. Yeah, yeah. It's
kind of what we need as a community to build up the confirming of the suspicion photograph is reality. If we just take Google Maps and see what our own location is, and everybody can confirm their own location, then I figure everyone else should be able to confirm it the same. I could just, I can't walk the whole world to check it out. But at least my own location is correct. So I take for that the photograph as my reality. And that's the starting point in this. The whole thing, we can actually, the downloading of the images was actually research for what Google actually left out. And see what they left over as the photographic material we could study. So they're pretty much hidden regions, I figured out.
So do you think they're hidden regions, or do you think that because it's like the ocean and maybe these large swaths of rainforest?
If you look in Google Maps and you end up in a big area where there are no photos, you're not really going further. You have the photos of the land. So it's pretty hard to figure out where they actually have particular areas still left over as a small region in the middle of the sea or in the middle of a huge country. Particular land features and all that stuff. And through this scanning of images, I discovered that they also provided the elevation data. And the only way to get it was through the GPS coordinate system. So I figured if I translate the XY coordinates into the GPS coordinates and then get the elevation from there and put it back in the XY grid, then I can build up a complete. And up to the power 100 if I want just to get an elevation data of a micrometer. They actually store it that detailed, but
you're very quiet. What do you think? If he's still there.
I am completely and utterly lost. Oh yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you well.
Hello?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I've been having audio problems all day, so I wasn't sure. Yeah. Okay. Basically, I need to go back to the start of when you were talking about the data that's getting lost in the morphing it from this square into a ball. So you're saying when you're taking the ball data from Google's Earth, Google Maps, you're not changing it
when we take it from a ball.
It becomes the square?
No, I begin with the square data.
You have to extrapolate it to this square, or it becomes the square?
But when I translate the square in the middle into the GPS, I'm missing 5 degrees in the north and the south. And,
okay, well maybe that's like when you take a piece of paper, a pattern.
What?
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, maybe that's similar to when you take a pattern on a flat piece of paper, a pattern, and you're going to take that pattern and you're going to, it's appropriate for this time of year, you're going to put it on a pumpkin and you're going to cut it out. But to lay that flat pattern on that curved pumpkin surface, you have to cut the corners and the edges that then fold over themselves to make it curve around that surface and put that pattern on that curved surface. That's probably where that data is appearing, or they're cutting it out or whatever. Okay, these top and bottom regions, those colors, when you go into those, are they actual fractals? Do they have depth? Do they repeat infinitely? Or
that is what you see. You see the depth of the elevation itself. And you can through the color scheme I use. I created the details. I made the detail visible. just by putting in colors on certain heights. So,
and then the way those colors kind of blend into those regions with no, is that like the border into the other reality? I mean, what?
Yeah.
What is this showing?
The world's
That's what I'm
beyond the
still.
poles. I don't know if you. I came across first. I think the world's beyond the poles was the first, and then Fiantis material about explaining the fourth dimensional looping from east-west.
Right.
And then I began with collecting these images, and then I discovered how I could actually plot in the photographic dimension the elevation data as well. Where once I plotted the elevation data, I found that it's practically impossible to get this data out of, first of all, the GPS square, whether if it comes from a circle or a ball. In the GPS square, the latitudinal distance is destroyed in that sense. But on the photographic square, all the distances are correct. It's just calculatable with 2 points and then the distance between them.
So even though we've been told that this, which basically seems to be pretty close to the Mercator projection, is distorted as far as relative landmass sizes, this is still what you're getting. So it has to be, I mean, like you say, if your house is your house, I can verify that. I've done that. I've looked at my house on Google Earth. It's still hard to wrap your head around
that every house has also a 90-degree corner instead of smaller or bigger, and then together as squashed, you know.
Okay.
So
you mentioned free energy.
If you take photos, if you look at photo, maybe it's handy to. Let's get the other one. Yeah. That's the screen.
While you're looking for that, I just wanted to ask, you're saying, okay, you're getting this data and it's coming directly from them, and so from that you're extrapolating things that other people aren't getting. Just like Free Energy site, his channel, he was constantly showing things like weird, almost, I don't even know how to describe it, what we would say are quote unquote cameras hanging from the dome, and just all this stuff he was coming up with that he had found on Google Earth. Does it require some access level of a hacking ability that we don't get to get this information? Because I've done a lot of
I'm kind of a programmer, and I needed to dig into the Google application.
So now you're helping me understand what
that particular wave function was.
Okay, that makes more sense. That you have a little more.
What is it? 10 years. That particular function was. I was already right. Okay, 10 years. Okay.
Right. Okay, I see. So you, man, whew, this is some heady stuff. I'm getting there though. It took me like probably 6 months of digging through Free Energy's channel and his videos to get my head.
It's taken a year so far.
But you see here also. I don't know. Did we see it?
Yeah. Yes, I see it. Yeah. Go ahead.
You see here also. The left image is the original photograph, where everything is still a square. Is what happens to the photograph when we transform it into the GPS square. Then you have this latitude. And then the third image is when we project that image with the longitude transformation on the ball. And in a way, I would think this is a bit hard to see it is. But here the houses no longer have 90-degree corners, and here they still don't have 90-degree corners. But this circle is also something where it's split out here, and then here it's a perfect circle. So yeah, that suggests only that it doesn't matter what transformation I do with the photograph, it ends up in a reality what doesn't exist.
Now, do you take into account, I mean, I know we've all seen things on Google Earth where, for instance, a bridge will then like be morphed down into the river that it's covering because of some kind of photographic anomaly or the angle it was taken or whatever. So is that part of the actual issue with them just having this huge amount of data to render and deal with? Or are some of these photographic anomalies going to be taken into account when you're doing this? I don't know. This is still breaking my brain. I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
Yes, so far I see that they only overlay the new strips of photos on top of the whole thing.
And how often do they update this thing?
I don't know, pretty much. So far, I'm on, what is it, version 740 somewhere.
Wow, yeah, there you go. So,
and what you see, the more north or south you go, the bigger the distortions in latitude and value. And then here, it's pretty small. It's no longer this particular square. And there, it's hard to figure out if it's true. So this is in the area of New York. You can see on the right how the right side is shorter. The more you go to the north, and then we zoom in.
Right. And it changes. Okay, yeah, I see it.
You can see the detail of it. And then, particularly with these circles, zoomed into the boat. But then this. The left image is the perfect circle with the flower of life pattern or triangle system. Vertical, and then in the middle it's distorted in ovals, and in the right it's still ovals, but then in the right direction. And this confirms for me that the photographic square isn't adjustable to anything.
Right, there you go.
Square is the dimensions of what it is. And in that sense, they have always been showing the truth right in our face. We just never realized it, how it actually was shown. And they told it came from the ball, never explaining how the square.
Well, I guess I'm headed back to Free Energy's channel and do some research again on all that warping, because that's where my brain starts falling apart. I mean, I've read the Book of Enoch, and it's still, that's some heady stuff. I mean, we're energy, and I get that, you know, if we're energy, then passing through that shouldn't be an issue or even something that we may not even acknowledge happening, but that's going to lose a lot of people, man. A lot of people are going to just, yeah.
It's hard to realize what a finite infinity is. Pretty simple to explain. An infinity is a circle, and a finite is a line. And the circle has an infinite looping in itself, but the finite size of it is when you cut the circle and then you create the single line, and that is the finite size of that circle. That is the finite part of the infinity. And this is how east-west is looped. We have also a north-south looping. Because I ended up with the triple square, I figured there must be something else at work. And then I was already working with a flower of life pattern. And out of the flower of life pattern, I figured that because east-west is already a single square and it loops in itself, through the pattern, the pattern itself looks indeed in east-west direction once to end up in the middle of the square. But in north-south direction, you need at least 13 squares and 15 circles to end up right in the middle of the square again. And that gave, for me, the idea of what the worlds beyond the poles, the particular book, describes, is actually true.
Can I ask for clarity again?
Views beyond. Yeah.
Right.
You just said there's basically you're talking about a translational movement, aren't you, in terms of the grid point? So you're saying it requires both a kind of circular movement for realignment where it should be compared to the globe model, or I suppose even an AZ.
Yeah, the globe is saying. This is why the globe is the easiest one to grasp as a concept, but it's flat, you know, and next to that, the photographic square is so intransferable that you end up always with the same length, no matter what latitude you are.
So are you suggesting like translational portals?
Greater everywhere. Yeah, that's where people begin with to think with, but I figured it doesn't matter where you are on the square, you are the center of it. So that edge is practically not there, other than that you are in the middle of that line.
Yeah, the grid alignment would form around you, wouldn't it? Because it's relative.
You are practically the circle in the infinity, but you end up in the same place, and that's because it is the fourth-dimensional circle.
Well, I would view it that there are no grid lines.
The only way to
you just make them yourself.
How the fourth dimension works is through toroidal fields. You take the center of the middle of the line, and then split the line and on both sides up, and then fold it around itself so that it meets around it as a circle, creating a toroidal field on the inertial plane in that sense.
So you're saying the toroidal field. So, can I just get clarity there again, Zez? So you're saying it's a toroidal. I was listening. Excuse me. I was listening to you and Santos with Darren Nesbitt, and so are you suggesting that this north-south movement and the east-west alignment that's required is functioned by a portal that, unlike the east-west movement, is just a straightforward repeating universe, whatever, or a straight portal? You suggested it's curved by a toroidal line to correct the east-west alignment that's needed.
I figured we try to connect the heavens to the earth. But if you ask me, in reality, we are a center of a toroidal field, or where the heavens is projected. And that field, through Owen's failure, in where he kind of between 60 kilometers and 100 kilometers could catch up the sky, I took an average of 80 kilometers an hour. That would mean that the celestial sphere isn't based on the equator size, but on ourselves. In that you'll have a bubble with a radius of at least 300 kilometers around you. The toroidal field. That's your own light body in that sense. And everything else is projected on that field. And so it turns all around you. And it turns around because the 300 kilometers just doesn't fit. I mean, we have a 40,000, at least 40,000 wide square, and what looks in itself. There are several things working here. New Owen's failure, because it's a failure because he tried to put the ball, in that sense, to measure the speed of the spin. But he could actually catch up with the stars at 80 kilometers an hour. Suggests that when you take 80 kilometers times 24 to fill the full circle and divide it by 2 pi, you end up with around 305 kilometers in radius. So I took that particular same formula, what they use, to calculate the 1600 kilometer spin. They just take the 40,000 kilometers and divide it by 24 hours. So you end up with 1600 kilometers an hour as a spin value. But that doesn't happen because we can't confirm the 1600 kilometers. We can only confirm 80 kilometers. So that sphere is smaller. And that is, if you ask me, that is pure proof for that we have our own celestial sphere, everybody and everyone. In terms of how the spatial rule works, we are always in the center of it.
So are you suggesting
what we mainly try to avoid is that we take ourselves out of the equation. And as long as we do that, we won't understand the world because we are in the center of it.
But by that, are you suggesting simulation, an individual, or simulation, or the way the heavens works is a stereographic
simulation
because cast onto Earth?
Because it's a so-called programming situation. I would more suggest to call it in the sense of an holographic nature, in that you are also part of the whole and are connected to the whole, that you can't separate yourself from it.
Okay, so is every sense then generated from a perspective, or is it experienced from a perspective?
Yeah, I think we have only the senses for three-dimensional stuff, but through the mind we can figure out the higher dimensions. And the first one I think is then the fourth in east-west direction as a loop in space, and then the fifth as a loop in space, and then the sixth is the up and down, in where it seems that we have what is called the roots in heaven and are growing into the world in the sixth dimensional level. And around that, I see kind of that is the seventh what contains it all.
Okay, clarity again. That's a big jump again. So just so I can comprehend, I mentioned 4, 5, and 6. Are you suggesting 4, 5, and 6 are a repeating pattern of 1, 2, 3, as opposed to 4 being timeless? Or what? I'm a bit confused, I think.
Anybody?
Series?
Did we lose him?
Again, have we?
Nope.
I'll clarify it again, just while Zeris is getting in there. But what I'm asking is you understand the basic dimensions 1, 2, 3, and we postulate a fourth dimension as time. You said there, matter of factly, 4, 5, and 6, and the way you described it, in my understanding, was that you're suggesting that 4, 5, and 6 relate to 1, 2, 3, in that they're repeating patterns of 1, 2, and 3. So 1 goes to 4, goes to 4, goes to 4, and 1 is 4. It's just as one ends, it rejoins the beginning of the other dimension. Is that what you meant there?
Series, why don't you just drop out and come back? I mean, a lot of people don't even get the concept that we're living in multi-dimensional bodies in 3D. but there's 5, 6, whatever is dimensions going on. You can walk, talk, eat, sleep, your heart beats. There's all these things happening all at once. In our body, it's happening outside our body. It's happening in the place we live in. See them because we're with the eyes.
Go ahead, Terry, what you say?
Back. Okay, yeah, the fourth dimension. So far, I figured we just don't take ourselves in the calculation, and that's what the whole indoctrination has caused. That it took us out of the equation. Because they don't deny God or whatever, etc. But you see that everything about ourselves is taken out as much as possible. And this is what I figured through that whole 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D stuff, that it is all about us, because we are exactly in the center of it. Doesn't matter which center you take, eventually in the biggest scale, you end up with the same one. As in, we all are part of that one. And in that sense, not in virtuality, but in a holographic nature, that we are all part of it. And that small part contains the whole as well. That's behind that holographic nature.
Right.
But you can actually tap into everything. And that's an ability we just lost. It was never learned to us, or it's just taken out in that sense. Because they took us out of the equation. Through Owen's failure, I figured, yeah, we for sure are the center of everything we observe.
Want to explain what Owen's failure is, series?
Thank you.
Owen's failure is based on catching up with the spin of the Earth. We see the sky spin, and they say it is 1,600 kilometers an hour, or 1,000 miles an hour. What he did was just drive with the car and look through a tube with the camera. Between 60 and 100 kilometers an hour, he could actually catch up with the stars. And that shouldn't be possible. Because that's, So instead of taking the 40,000 kilometers and divided by 24 hours, ending up with the 1,600 kilometers an hour, I took the average of 80 kilometers an hour times 24 hours to complete the circle. And divided by 2 pi, I came out of 305 kilometers in radius of that. So you're looking practically 305 kilometers upwards and sideways. That's how far your bubble works as your personal toroidal field. On that edge, you get all the projections of the heavens. I figure the heavens themselves are still above us, but through all the layers and eventually on our own, they themselves are also toroidal fields. I figure the sun and the moon, we are looking into the core of a toroidal field. We see the sun and moon turn also in clockwise, anti-clockwise. And
so fundamentally, then, there you're.
And this is why we see also the same thing. No matter where we are, in north, south, east, or west direction, we see always the same core from the same direction. Because it's a toroidal field, what goes into that. It's only how high the things are is still to figure out.
So with that in mind, with that in mind, then, are you if we were to use the mathematics of what you just suggested there and go out a distance outside of that sphere of vision, are you suggesting there's a separate projection that's experienced by that secondary person? So it's not a shared experience, it's an individualized experience.
Yeah, you can be next to each other and see the same thing. But as soon one moves from the other, they will see more and more the difference between them.
Okay,
Same
so
thing as why we see the moon shine through the clouds in our personal perspective, and then a mile further away, somebody else sees the moon shine through the clouds.
Yeah.
And we can't see that. Or the sun beard is also an example.
Sun column on the water. But everyone has their own sun column on the water when they're looking at the beach.
Yeah.
okay, so me and Walt were sat on the beach together, yeah, and we're looking at the sun. Are we seeing two slightly different perspectives of the same thing, or are we both receiving individualized perspectives?
Not really kind of individualized. You're in that sense you're the only one there because that is your universe. You can experience anyone else as a character in your universe, but everything is in that sense. What I say, everything is the center. You can't take something as separate from that.
Okay, I can't put it another way then.
Is it almost like the rainbow effect? Where
Once you,
And
it's exactly like the rainbow effect.
you did?
Exactly like that. Once work, the 360 cameras show how that bubble actually is like the rainbow. And then only through Oculus you can actually see and experience it through the 3D stuff.
Our buddy Z-Prox is loving to hear that.
if you want to be,
Yeah, their work actually confirmed the same. It's a combination of almost failure and Stan Smith and Z-Prox's work.
Right. I've looked at it and I'm just not, it nauseates me. I can't look at it long to actually get the view that I want to see. I have to look around on my phone. It's the best way I can see it.
Yeah.
And we are waking up in chat did mention that this is the stuff that Stan Smith said last week, right here, that everything that we see is just our own personal view, right? So everybody has their own personal view. So it's not like everybody viewing one.
So far, the whole flat Earth stuff that they made the globe and everything else, it's not to hide the Earth, anything out externally. It's to hide us. It's the only thing they have hidden all the time. They really hid.
Wow, I like that.
It made us powerless and them powerful because they knew it and we didn't. We were fooled into everything. Just on authority. What is just basic contract?
Yes. Unfortunately, we've all agreed to
Very
it.
religious.
Like that.
Hey, Siri, you mind if I ask how old you are?
Yeah. 45.
45?
Of course, 52.
What was your first job? Just out of curiosity. You don't have to answer. I'm not trying to be nosy. I'm just trying to make conversation. I'm curious because this stuff is so beyond me.
I know that was just what I was thinking. The path that led to this knowledge is just one I want to know more about. So,
for real.
Ask away.
Outside education, outside having a job, practically, well, I've worked 2 months in my life officially, and that is 1 month for paper bringing around. And filling the store, how do you call those?
The shelves?
Stock boy?
Yeah, the store shelves. And yeah, practically I'm kind of light autistics, but with a high IQ. But my schooling, I was dropped on the most lowest of lowest education, and the only thing I actually learned there was eating out of my nose. I always had good numbers, good figures, etc. I never made my homework. It just was there in the classroom, and I just absorbed.
So, Karen,
Osmosis.
Karen, what are you doing while Sirius is busy doing all this work?
Working.
Is she working right there alongside you? Is she still here?
Me, I don't stop. I do the channel side of things.
Yeah, I see you broadcasting all the time.
You guys are always busy, man. Makes me feel like we're slackers over here on RERUN Media. My goodness. Other than once a week, we need to be on 24/7.
It's kind of, I dedicated my life to this now. I have nothing else to live for in that sense, other than the truth. That's
He
the
does
one
the
thing.
data there. I like the channel, really.
Well, you both do a great job. Let me say that. There's so much information here. I really do need to start actually unpacking some of this and trying to wrap my head around it. I think today was great. I think Adam and Walt both have a better grasp and can help further me along. So possibly.
Point to a good starting point for others in chat or that are listening or that might download this later. Start a good starting point, because at this point, I mean, Adam and I, or at least I know I have, and I sent it to the guys, have looked at Free Energy's work months and months ago, maybe even a year ago, and tried to grasp some of that and was really looking at that model because it seemed to answer a lot of things that we're not working out on this map. But now other people may not know that work. Where should they start on you guys' channel? What would be a good starting point to get some basic understanding of this if they have no clue? Because some people are still lost.
Yeah, I kind of joined multiple works from multiple people together. Ken Wheeler, for example, with his electromagnetic explanation of the nature of the universe in that sense. This is Thunderbolt projects with their electric universe. Free energy material for the fourth dimensional principle. In that we as the fourth dimension, I figured time is the zero dimension, because in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. So in the beginning was time, and then God created. So first time was there, and then the three-dimensional or the hyperdimensional space, in that sense that I don't know how high this goes in dimensional sense. I lost my train.
That's okay. Just anybody else you can think of, let us know. We'll drop links in our description later. And to your guys'
work for the specifically syncretism for astrology, what makes us again the center of all the effects happening,
right?
Because of all the electromagnetic stuff, and we are completely electromagnetic as well, so we are influenced by that, no matter how aware or unaware we are of it. And that's all what it's all about, the awareness of ourselves, who we are. The world, it's at some point you know, but you have to go within to actually realize what the rest of it is in all the beyonds, in the higher spiritual realms, in that sense. Also that you can take the planets as individual realm levels in higher frequencies probably. And we are just in our own frequency here in this realm. And we can probably go north and south. Although I would suggest go north, as that is the part what they still hide on the circle. And also that there is, particularly in the south, a demonic barrier. Then in the north have one of the angels, and it's kind of that we are in between the two.
Okay, this morning, Josh and
I figured north is ascending and south is descending. If you take the map and you take the south, I see it as a ground out of where we grow as the tree in the middle. And then north is then completely sea. It's kind of north is then the heavens. So in two-dimensional sense, that is ascending them back to the heavens. To take into account also the double snake of the toroidal fields, what is going together, and the points where they join is where you have the heavens and the earth, and then you have the half circle in the other half, and that goes up, and also in its own chakra system in the bigger body, in where we are again the middle. Sense
like the caduceus snake and symbol
in the heart of the heart of the heart in that sense.
Right. Well, the spiritual side of this, definitely, we talked this morning about near-death experience, and that kind of got me onto the whole. I've looked into. This is kind of a downer. I really don't want to get into it, but we have to. In this idea that we are electromagnetic beings, and we exist in this electromagnetic energy machine realm. It's been said in the Bible, it's been said in many ancient books that this place is where the fellow were cast down. So if this is where they were cast down, isn't it possible that they've taken this realm and done their centuries of building energy systems and ways to trap our souls here and create this whole karmic reincarnation guilt?
I would suggest they de-Christ us, as in that we knew how we actually could get in a higher spiritual awareness.
Right.
And this increasing order, what we create in the brain, what we have to, what goes back to the bottom of the spine, and we have to bring it up again to actually rejuvenate ourselves. We create fresh new blood through that process, and it's basically tied on your what is it, on the moon in your sun sign. What is that particular moment where you have to bring it up to create your own
Kundalini?
You do that through Kundalini start and through first of all alkalining your body, and then second is meditating, because to focus that in a sense and actually experience it also. Paul Santos inside of it, what he explains there. And then Ken Wheeler for the electromagnetic stuff, and met your own in the sense of what is an atom, how he also connects colors to the numbers, and why particular colors are particular colors, because those numbers are in there. Owen's failure for confirming that that celestial sphere is way smaller than the Earth suggests, what is suggested to begin with. We still try to wrap that sphere around something what is not us, but it is us in the center. What is that particular sphere?
On that,
and also,
there is a. I know we talk a lot about simulation theory. It's something I've been looking at recently. I hate to try and quote where I've read it, but I do remember reading the heavens are a sphere. And actually, if you take a stereographic image through a sphere projected onto a flat plane, this is something I'm looking into at the moment in terms of, because we've all got issues with star patterns, whether they're globy or flat, whatever you know, when there are issues with the star patterns. This is something I'm starting to look at, and in terms of if the heavens are a globe and a celestial sphere, and actually it's a projection through that, which is the star field we see, that actually starts to give possibilities that that marry up to what we're seeing in a way, and how it matches up to your observations of a much smaller celestial sphere, the geography that we experience.
Yeah,
On that, guys, I know Josh has probably got the greatest song on flat Earth lined up in a minute. And before he does, or before we cut away, there's just something I want to say, guys. That this stuff we're going to talk about after the break, hopefully, which is a few of the bits of nonsense that's going off in flat Earth at the moment. And I just want to say, you know, it's clear we me and yourself, there is very different opinions of the structure of things, the reality of things, and even down to the point of how we perceive reality even. And that's called being human. I don't expect anybody to be a copy of anybody else. And it's been, hopefully, I think tonight, pleasant for me, pleasant for you guys, and informative for me, and informative to talk to somebody without having to call them a shill or anything, but we share different opinions. And hopefully maybe some of the flat Earth community out there can have a bloody good look at how people with different opinions should maybe interact. Because, as I say, you know, it's been a pleasure talking to you both tonight, and your perspectives have been enlightening for me. I may not share it, but I've really enjoyed listening and trying to perceive it a little bit. And hopefully it'll help me along my way, and maybe some of my strange opinions have helped you as well, man.
Yeah, I'm all into actually exploring islands, and that's what I did. In a sense, in an ocean of knowledge, all of us are a small island having our personal view, and I figured when I lay bridges to someone else's island, I can actually see more of that whole ocean of knowledge. And that's kind of how we all build a network of people around us gathering this information that we all can see together. Because I can only see that part of my island. And I can join in somebody so they can explore my island. I can actually expand the knowledge way better than just isolating ourselves with opinions and making war for our islands. And if somebody just doesn't agree with me, I figured they just don't understand me.
Of it's about, it's not actually understanding, and then everybody has these stupid ego arguments. But if you look at our channel, you'll see which way we're going.
Yeah, for me, it's not being about being right. It's all about finding the right.
Yeah, I tell you what, which way we're going, I have no bloody idea. You know what I mean? And that's my honest opinion.
Our channel is not full of drama. Our channel is full of communicating, talking like this to people.
Right. We
Hang
love that about you. That's why we're glad you guys are here.
24 hours. I've done 3 hangouts. This is the 4th one in 24 hours.
You are a warrior.
Oh,
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I am really quite tired.
I just want to take a minute right here to recite a little poem. It's one of my favorites. Steinbeck was always a personal favorite of mine as far as our authors go. And this is a poem by a fellow named John Donne. Most notably for the final couple of lines. But it goes like this. It says, "No man is an island, entire of itself. Each is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thine own, or of thine friends were. Each man's death diminishes me, for I am involved in mankind. Therefore, sin not to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee." And it's always just been a real personal one for me, because it really just sort of speaks to the humanity of everyone. Because in the days of the funerals, the funeral procession would go through the town, and they would ring the church bells. So you'd always know that there was someone who had just died, because the church bells would be ringing, that the bells would toll. And so the point of this is don't ask why, who died. It doesn't matter who died. A human died. A part of you died as a human. So that's what I've always taken away from that poem is don't ask for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. So I just wanted to send that out there. I wanted to thank Sirius and Karen again for coming on here. I'm going to have to let you guys go because I really want to spend some time with these fellas here. I haven't talked to them all week. And we need to take a little break. I need to hit the little boys' room and recaffeinate. So I will have to.
I mean, that's the end going now.
Yes.
We're going to be here. You're welcome.
You're totally welcome to hang out and listen. Absolutely, just chill and stay. You don't have to like click off or leave or anything. I was just getting ready to go to a break. So I didn't want it to surprise anyone.
And we're going to play a lovely song. You may have heard it. If you haven't, I hope you enjoy it. It's a great song.
It really is. It is definitely one of my favorites. But it's Friday. It is Flat Earth Friday. And it is that time.
Well,
hello, Series. Series, you did really well in that interview yesterday.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
I've just got a blank screen,
For the
Series.
beginning part,
Blank screen.
I can still explain a lot more from the beginning part of where the images are actually, how that is built up, to actually really know what the photos are and how that works. And then in combination with GPS and what the GPS is, etc.
Is there any way you could stick up that picture with the 4 pictures on it, Series? It's one of the first ones you showed them. It's got your picture and sort of the wave line, and then it's got a picture of what they give you in Google Maps to show where they've lost the top and the bottom. So you can just talk about that a little bit.
Let's find the picture.
Give Series a second to get the pictures up. It's got to go through about 1 million pictures every Series.
Yeah, I really need to make a list of selected images. Yeah. Stupid alerts. This one.
Yeah. So
Actually,
I'll just explain to that is Series' data map, and the bottom one is what they actually do to make you on Google Maps, and they just lose masses of information. But over to you, Series.
Yeah. This is the top part, and then this is the bottom part. And
that's the data. That's what the data says, and then they squish it all up to make it look like the other one.
yeah, and they don't change the longitude, only the latitude. So the latitude distance is destroyed in this step. And yeah, there's a lot of flower of life patterns in that you can see. There are 2 different grids, the purple lines and the blue lines. The blue is the heavenly one, and the purple is the earthly one. And there are 2 different grids coming together in the middle square. And this pattern has also a repeating pattern, but I don't know what that particular pattern is. The combination of the 2. But in horizontal sense, you have the land base, and That's why we have an east-west looping of only one square, because it ends up in the same square already in the next square. And in north-south direction, it doesn't. And that's probably how then the flood of life grid fits into the whole square grid. And we have already a block north and south. So out of that, I think there is way more beyond. And it happens.
Series, that picture there on the bottom, can you just explain, or do you want me to? Do you want me to explain it to everyone? You're looking at the information that Series has managed to gather. There's different colours in there. You can see the globe Earth sits in the middle. You can see Africa and you can see South America. At the bottom is Antarctica. It's much bigger than we are. And yeah, it's much bigger than we are. And Series has added these colours because they're elevation colours. This is all coded by him. They're his colours. They're not what it looks like. It's just the colours are there for
a random colour scheme, just to get as much detail visible on any layer as far as I can see it. As soon as I find a very large area with just one color, I just add more color detail to that particular area to see the details of those areas.
Yeah, and the darker colours obviously are Antarctica, but all the data that he has found shows that anything sort of above Russia, above Canada, is water. So those colours, the greens and the blues and maybe yellows and stuff, that is just water. That is what they're showing. It's water above us and Antarctica below us.
I mixed a little bit blue in the sea colors. Everything below sea level. That's a blue color over it, extra, and that makes it a little bit darker. And then the land I have colored in bright colors.
But to explain to everybody, the water that's around South America, Africa to Australia is dark blue, and there's no elevation data for that. It is just dark blue, and although the water above Russia is not as deep as the water that's around Africa, South Africa and Australia. None of that is as deep as there. It's extremely deep. How deep did you reckon it went, Series, the blue water?
The maximum depth I've seen is just over 10 kilometers.
10 kilometers.
Just above Australia. And there is just a little part what is extremely deep, but the average in the oceans is between 5 and 6 kilometers. And then
but the water above Russia is not as deep, is it, Series? There's deeper parts in it, but it's not. And
the north is an average between 2 and 3 kilometers, but then the region above Russia is about, 100 meters below. And these areas seem to connect also the lands for a big part.
Just wondering in the chat room, does anybody have any questions for Series? Because he's going to look at something else in a minute. And I actually wonder whether he could show his simulation of the whole thing to show the difference in the level of Antarctica to the water behind or above Russia. But I just wondered right now, is there any questions? Has everybody in the chat room understood what Series is showing? Just asking. Well, they probably won't now, Series, once you show them that.
This is how I try to explore the interference patterns of both flower of life grids and see where they actually come together. Just a test of it. And then a hard zoom out. And eventually a complete build-up of the light blue line on the outer edge is where it comes together the same as in the middle. But that is also a complete square. Yeah, the bottom part of it. the middle of this, the main square, yeah. How far I draw it out and see where they actually met up, and you have the red squares of the red lines, the thick red lines, and then the blue lines are the ones where both are joining up for the, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5. I think that is a 13. And then the next one, the next blue one is also 13, is 26 steps together.
So basically, as far as you can tell, it loops and loops and loops top one way to the other, but not 4 ways, just 2 ways. It just keeps looping.
Yeah, where you enter the edge on the right side, you come in on the left side, in that sense, and then you go back to the center.
Series, will you just go through those photographs again as well about the GPS and that, and why they're being squished? I think that's good to, because that was in part of that hangout you had there, that interview.
Yeah, this is one.
Yeah, just explain it again. The photograph on the left is the actual data, and the 2 on the right is what they do to mess it around in the maps they show you.
Yeah.
You know, the moment you start pulling out, that's what they start doing to the pictures.
First they transform the latitude, and then they transform the longitude on the ball or the circle. And even kijken hoor, this is in the south, I think. No, it's in the north. Not sure, it's Greenland or something maybe. And this is near 13 is close to the equator. There you see the least distortion. The closer you are at the equator, the less distortion you see. Right,
so there's less distortion at the equator, and it starts getting more distorted the norther you go, or the souther you go.
This is 63 latitude, 83 latitude. And you see also what it then becomes on the right side with I actually need to place it in the center orientation, but it was easier to do it this way. 82, same image. New York, of course. You see that on all those containers here, what is formed here and what is formed there.
So just to explain to people, although Series is doing his map through the elevation that he's found, he's also been looking at the pixels on the photographs. There's 2 or 3 projects going on here. We have a whole database full of compass readings from around the world, which also have to be put into this. But yeah, so, and these are all little projects that Series has been doing. He's been working really hard, haven't you, Series?
Yeah, and then try to explain it to the world, and then explain what the hell your road was, so that others can walk it in a sense, check it out.
Can I ask you something, Series? Because I know you've been running Blender, but is there any way? Because obviously, once you show the simulation again, it shows people the difference between Antarctica, us, and above Russia. Can you show them that?
What exactly do you mean?
We're living in.
You mean the website?
Yeah, just show them that, Series.
3D. Okay, load. Takes a while to start it up, it seems.
Yeah, it might take a little bit because he has to render it up, put the pictures up. I'll find that one then.
Yeah, I sure wish I had faster internet.
Series. It's frustrating.
That is all left for play. Oh,
That's Poncho Pete's chat line whizzing away on mine and Sirius's phone. As he starts to simulate this round, you'll get to see the different, how tall Antarctica is. And it looks almost lower behind Russia. It's like we're in a pop-up book. And what Sirius has always said, and he said it on the radio show last night, is that that doesn't mean there's not more. They're just not giving any more. Where he's got to is what they're giving. But it's more than a lot than most people have seen.
if you ask me, outside the ones who collected it, knew that it even existed.
Is it doing it, Sirius?
Yeah, it's loading.
All we are is just human beings. You know, Sirius has got a computer. We're not NASA or technical like this. And look what he's managed to. This is what the data shows him, and he's managed to understand it. So, Wiz, the tree. Wiz was saying he'd like to see the tree. That is the tree. We're looking at a big tree. We live on a big tree, basically. Sometimes it shows itself better as a tree. And a question that got asked last night was, what's this whole thing with Greenland and Africa? The elevation data shows that Greenland is 3/4 of the size of Africa. If not, well, it's not quite the same size, but it's enormous. I mean, look at that. You've done so well, Sirius. And Sirius, show them where Everest is, to show them how tall Iceland, Antarctica is. And every single thing that you're looking at is, I don't know, thousands and thousands of little squares put together. Everything is squares. Poncho Pete.
This is the highest point, I think. And that then compared to the mountain in Antarctica.
So it's not quite as tall as Everest, but it's amazingly tall, Antarctica.
But Everest itself is like a toothpick compared to a whole forest of trees.
Also, Sirius, do you reckon that originally, like above Russia and that, it was a bit taller there, but obviously there's been a big flood and it came over from the top, didn't it? That's what you reckon, the flood came. So anything you can see on Africa, you know, the light colours, that's where the water rushed through past Africa and stuff.
can see how the land itself is still connected in a sense when you just drop the sea level 100 meters.
I mean, Ceres could have found anything in there, couldn't you? It could have been anything. It could have been a triangle, a circle, but it's not. Show them Everest, Ceres, with your cursor.
Yeah. Just be here.
So you can see that Antarctica is taller than Greenland. Everybody's messaging while we're on a hangout.
Strange mountain in the south.
I think the first time I saw this with someone else, we were absolutely speechless. I was like, oh, wow. Ceres, just before Christmas last year, had another simulation, but just something happened to that website, and Ceres had to start again in about November, December. So everything or anything he shows now comes from the second ding round of December. But even in January, February, Ceres was just drawing things. He drew, like Matt Jerome, he drew and he drew and he drew. So all these computer stuff probably started, what, February, Ceres?
All these computer drawings, yeah.
All the computer simulations.
First I built the Maps 2.0, what is the scanner. This is the image scanner. And it scans for all the images what are missing, and the black areas are still to be scanned, and the red areas are confirmed missing. And you can see in level 16 we actually miss a lot of imagery, and so far they stripped it down to the land, and then most of the land in Russia in the top has disappeared, and parts of the forest are disappearing here and here. And north of America, or what is it, Canada, which has been just completely.
I have said this, Ceres. Do you think that's because they've got as far as what they're going to show you in those areas? You know, like they're not scanning anymore because they've got what they wanted to show us, so there's no need to show us anymore.
In a way, they have the data, but they just don't add it to the public domain. I mean, their photos are perfectly cut out of in squares, you know. They just delete it. That's it. They do know what it is. At least the land. Sea is all elevation actually, and that's how they create their blues, out of the elevation data, what they use themselves.
Ceres found a way into Google Maps, but anybody can do this if they want, but it will take you an extremely long time. Ceres never has his computer off, and in reality, he needs more people to help him because there's just so much data. But I mean, as far as the map goes, there's enough to make the map, but he just wanted as much as there was. He wants the last bit of information, and it could take Ceres years to download this stuff.
This one needs to build up for a moment.
And there's no questions on in Ceres. They're just more interested in like listening to what you've got to say.
This is the tool in where I build up the main image, and I do that in blocks of what is it, 16 by 16 icons, building an image of 512 by 512 pixels.
That's Greenland you're looking at there.
Yeah. And this is then the elevation data available and in level 15. The squares getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Series, can I ask you something? Just while we're on the Hangout, can you turn your phone off? Or turn the volume down, because everybody every 2 seconds can hear a bleeping going on.
Yeah. It's probably too close to the TV. Figure at the bottom and build up.
But you notice there's no circles. There's no circles and no bending.
Just squares, only squares.
Only squares.
One big.
Still hear it, Series. Me, myself, I just turn the volume off, so the phone might buzz, but nobody hears it.
Yeah, the buzzing is what you hear.
Yeah, it's the noise as well, Series. I've turned my noise down so you can't hear it. What is going on?
And by clicking on it, I can get an average height, the lowest, the highest, and the average. And I'm not sure what those...
I mean, Series didn't know he was going to find this. I mean, as I said, he could have found anything in there. But after all, they've been telling us the truth, and then they go and lie on top, and they bend everything. So the original bit, like more or less the land is the truth, not the top and the bottom bit. As we said, they've already squished that. But they're sort of telling you the truth when you first look at it on a flat map. And then, of course, they bend and twist everything to make the lie and make it into a globe.
So,
and as you can see, Series has got many different projects. He's also doing the electromagnetics right now. But we won't get into that one today, Series, because that takes a hangout in itself to explain that to people. I mean, look what we're living on. It's the most amazing. It's amazing. I mean, we know that we can't prove it 100%. No one can. But I mean, why would all this data be there? Totally different data.
You know, the thing is, why doesn't this work? Oh, did they delete it? You don't say. Oh, it's still building up. Okay. Google Sky. It's all squared. Even the sky, they have squared in data. It's just one big square.
You found that picture, didn't you, a while ago, and you never let go of that picture, did you, Series?
Yeah. Something has changed here. Not sure what, but I need to update this, I guess.
We'll just show them that one because we weren't going to have a really, really long hangout today. We just wanted to put the hangout out and the group can see it live. Well, you know, it's not live, it's from last night, but we're live. And then I wanted to make sure Series explained a little bit about what you were looking at. He's just going to explain this, aren't you, Series? And then we've got one more video to play.
Yeah, let's play the video, I guess.
Well, the reason we're playing this is that obviously you know that Chris is with Cindy at the moment, but when Chris was with us, he made this little video and it's been used somewhere else. Jaren uses it for the I'm an AE kind of guy. he uses it as his main picture, but actually it's Chris dispelling the pizza map, and it's going to show how they made the pizza map when Ceres gets the video up. Google Maps know what we're living on, though, don't they?
They know it damn well.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're storing some readings, compass readings on Google Maps, and when you can get the whole of England in the picture, everything is straight. But the moment you start to pan out, everything bends, or everything curves. The land curves. But even you can have the whole of England in there, which is still quite a big piece of land, and the lines are straight. And then they also loop it. So Google Maps know exactly what we're living in.
Something this obviously isn't the real map, right? But it's a visual aid, because I was trying to figure out,
Hang on.
in my mind, how Ceres explains it as the looping thing, right? Because I'm still trying to figure out how you fly and make a flight from LA to China, and to make things connect, in a physical.
I'm always saying, the point always in the middle.
Right. So what I did is I took a square, right, a basic cube, four-sided square, and then I just curve the corners in, right, enough just to make it so it appears like the globe model that Google is using, right, and then I superimpose a GPS accurate map that's actually the flight maps, right, because we were talking about the flight maps the other day, right?
Yeah.
And then what I figured is, you can see if I zoom in on it a little bit here. Now, I rotate it slow, so I mean it's an accurate to scale, right, map of the flight paths, right? So I was trying to figure out, well, how do you get from, say, wherever, and why aren't there any flights across Antarctica and so forth? And they keep saying, oh, well, it's a slightly oblate spheroid, so that's kind of how I morphed the squared and then made the map on it, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then the fourth dimensional thing came into it, like when I started, scaling things up and down, right? So when I looked at the North Pole, when you go on Google Maps, Google Earth, and you zoom into the center of the North Pole or the South Pole, right? You always see this circle above it that is warped. It's always warped, right? So if I flip my ball I made, right, that's to simulate theirs, and you go into Antarctica, you'll see that whatever, all that data from the flat map you have is being morphed, like you said, morphed into that single point, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I want to say, how did they do that, and why are they doing that? Why is it always that way, right? Just to answer the question. And then what happens is, I'll just take this, give you a little bit bigger screen here if I can. If you start changing the thickness, it's an inverted double-sided square. So if you start changing the thickness, watch what happens.
Good.
The North Pole starts coming out of the top. So here's Antarctica inverted, right?
Yeah.
And then it starts coming out again, right? It'll start flying, it'll come out until you end up with a pizza map, right? Right? So you can infinity keep rolling it in and out, in and out, in and out of itself, right? You'll end up with an azimuthal equidistant map, right? Eventually, if you scale it, right? You just keep rolling and rolling and rolling, right? So that's what they've done. That's how they pulled it off. So that's why then in their pictures you end up with a square thing. So I thought that was interesting. That at least now I know what they're doing, right? Right? You can morph it inside and out of itself forever, right? And still end up with a globe. Right? And the flight paths are accurate, etc. Because it's a real map, right? So we're on the trail, right? Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
It's really annoying though, isn't it, as well? Because you're taking data that comes from them.
Yeah,
It's the only
right.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? The other dealer comes from their model, right?
You put it in a ball, you actually twist up all the distances.
That's correct, yeah.
I mean,
Everything's warped, right?
lines, etc.
Yeah, that's why when you go on to Google Maps or Google Earth, you can't draw a line 90 degrees on the line of latitude and maintain a 90-degree heading. Like if you started in Alaska or whatever, and you said, I want to go 90 degrees east or west. If you hold that heading, you'll end up at the equator, right? Because they've warped it, right? It is a cube square, right, in the model and on the map, right, in three-dimensional or fourth-dimensional, it would be three-dimensional sense, right? All the coordinates on the X, Y, Z are to a cube. And then they roll it into a ball, essentially. That's what they're doing.
Not to interrupt, but any word on Dave yet?
No, I just put a message in chat to say I hope he's coming back. No, he's not. No, maybe he's turned his computer on and off. I don't know. Sorry. Carry on, Chris.
Yeah, that's cool. And what got me onto that was I was trying to correct. Now this is kind of just interesting. This is I'm not trying to like, go for the whole Masonic thing or whatever, but I was trying to remove the curvature from the flight paths, right? So if you fly from New York to Heathrow, England, right, London, England, on the maps, there's always that arching curve, right? And no plane would fly, they would leave, 45 latitude, fly up into 60 latitude and drop back to the 45 latitude. It makes no particular sense, right? If you're pretty much running a straight line. To a degree you would, but not to the extent they're showing. So the only way to straighten that out so that it makes sense for straight line from South America to there is a straight line in any direction it's a pyramid, right? Pyramid rolled into a ball, right? And that's what you end up with. Very strange. Yeah.
Keeps all twisted here. Yeah, it's a way to find out how to actually. That's why I like to actually completely start from the start.
Yeah, go backwards, yeah.
The circle and the squares, making them actually cubes.
Yeah, that's what we're doing, yeah.
Cube set. And the only way you can actually explain the next level is by closing these circles. First of all, fourth dimension as an 8-figure, folding the dimension in two sides upwards and downwards. That it meets in the middle, and then you have the fifth dimensional actually also the up and the down as the below fourth and the up fourth. And that you can actually put in part of the snake of the 7 chakras. And that's the bigger step beyond there again.
Yeah, you get into that.
Yeah. Build it up and eventually twist reality into those dimensions to see those dimensions in the 3D on 2D. It's a bit, you're still explaining the next levels, but yeah, it's kind of this.
And to explain, Chris, how they made the, the round map then. Thanks for explaining to everybody how they did that.
Yeah, if you take the same, if you take a donut, like a torus donut shape, and then scale it down slightly on the z-axis to make it flatter, like a pizza dough, right? And then you do exactly the same thing with the globe map superimposed on that, and then you roll it inside out, right? It will do the same thing. I'll see if I can pull it up here just to show you exactly how that's working too. I compared the two. I'm trying to, go after it all, right? Oh, just a second here. I think I got one set up.
Sometimes, well, we can turn off the.
Yeah, that was my whole setup as well, actually, to disprove any map what doesn't. But
Any maps don't work, disprove it.
with the map what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Before I knew it.
Okay, let's go screen share application window again. Try this one. Now I go. This one.
Oh, it's a donut.
Yeah, I was going to see if I could get that one to work too. I had this working there last night. But then I went and changed the shape of it a little bit, but
That's always the question, where is the measurable curvature?
yeah. I'll go to that. You can really start to see how it's being manipulated, right?
Yeah. Seems like that Buddha map.
Yeah, so that's kind of, it works the same way, right? If you start rolling it out, right, you'll end up with the
double ice ring, yeah.
Right. There's the ice ring will start to form. You can see it. I don't have this quite perfect, but last time I had it set perfect, you just going to scale it a little bit differently. Right. Scale it here. Go onto the Z-axis. Scale it down a little bit till it's almost flat. Right.
Whoa.
Right. Scale it down, and then you can start manipulating the rings inside of rings inside of rings. Right. It keeps making the same. Right. Right. So you can generate any map you want, right? I mean, there'll be, the ice ring's melted, and here's a map, whatever, so many years from now, we got a little bit of islands of ice, and, right? So that's exactly what's happening in the 3D data, right? It's a UTM manipulation on the 3D.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like this one here when you zoom it like that, because this is the because I was trying in the square map, the flat map that you sent me there, right? And the all the data that's in the southern part, which is the Antarctica ice, right? Because when you start stretching that out, it's like, wow, there's all these mountain ranges and everything down there, right? It's been squashed into the center pole, right? So all this white area here is actual imagery from Google Earth, right? That's exactly what it looks like when you stretch it out into a donut and then zoom into the top, right? Right. Or flight path, right? Because I'm trying to figure out the flight path, right?
See, that's the whole thing with the circle map, is that they don't want you to know that there's more land up north.
Well, that's exactly it, yeah.
I will get a list of all the airplanes of airfields in the world, and then we in a grid of all the possible flights.
Yeah.
It's really great to sort of at long last see how they managed to make the round map, though.
Yeah, that's exactly how they're morphing it, yeah. All that data is squashed into the poles and it warps it completely out of it. It makes no sense, right? They've warped it.
I hope everybody in the chat room can now see how they lied about that now.
Yeah, because I can zoom in like on.
Carry on.
You can tell this is you can tell that this is the actual data right straight off the. You can zoom in right down until you see them. These are the mountain ranges and everything that's in there, right? So we're trying to see I want to, you know, once you understand what they're doing and how they're manipulating the reality, then, you know, we stand a whole lot better chance of coming up with a map, at least something that's, you know, but it's still hard, like Siri says, right? The data, the only data that we really have to work with is from Google Earth and so forth, and they've already, you know, potentially manipulated it to fit the globe, right? So who knows if, you know.
They can't fit the globe on the photograph,
Right.
and that's the point here.
Yeah.
That's how they actually show the truth right in our face as well.
Yeah.
Just finish the map for what it is. They just hide 2/3 of it.
Yeah.
And we think it's only 5 degrees from the 180, but it's 2/3 of the y-axis.
Yeah, it's in the map that they're warping into a globe could only, it might just be a piece of a much larger, you know, piece of pie or whatever, right? It could be, you know, there could be stuff out there I've never had access to, right? Ever. In any sense of the world, it was too far away or whatever, but it's very difficult to see, you know. Who knows?
Oh, that's the end of that little video. I mean, at the time, we didn't know Chris was going to do that. He had just been, obviously, like series, you know, get on your computers, they know what they're doing. And then Chris realised how they made the pizza map. So, dispelling it.
Yeah, it's so easy to figure it out once you realize what the original data is. From there you can see how they actually did it step by step, fake it. That's why I reckon that when you zoom in, you see the actual reality, and when you zoom out, you see just this of a misformed detail, what you can't see, because you don't have the pixels to see it in that sense, or the eyes, because you can't see it that far to begin with.
And that's the part that, you know, we're ever so grateful for in Sun and Moon, is the fact that we've got, like, okay, Chris has stepped out a little bit at the moment because obviously he's trying to get his life together with Cindy, but there's Chris, there's Series, there's Matt Jerome, and there's FPV, there's Stan, there's Dave Marsh. There's Owen with Owen's failure, which maybe a lot of you don't know yet, but Series was talking about him. We've called it Owen's failure, because what he's done is he's managed to keep up with the stars in a car. So there's no way the stars are even traveling like they say they are. And he wanted it to be a failure, because it has to fail, because he believes in flat Earth. And it worked. It failed. And what it is that in a few weeks' time, we're going to be having another hangout with Thrive, and Owen will be explaining his Owen's failure. And we'd like Dave Marsh on that one as well, because obviously Dave Marsh is doing his own experiments. And yeah, this wasn't, is that Michelle? Hi, Michelle.
Yeah,
Is that Michelle?
How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. You? Hello. This is Michelle, this is one of Series' friends. Yeah, so that's going to be after, because obviously there's the American convention, and a lot of people are getting obviously ready for their speeches, and Thrive speaking there. But when he gets back from that, he wants to come back on a hangout, and we'll have Owen and Dave Marsh on there explaining their projects. This wasn't supposed to be the longest hangout, was it, Series? This was just so that you could explain your a little bit more about your radio show.
And that actually explains something. A lot of people see the market.
Yeah. So we're probably going to end this hangout in a minute, but just to explain that we are back tomorrow with FPV, and he's going to show his work. So there's some new work coming into the arena. and very grateful that he's going to come on Sun and Moon to show it. Series, that's be 9 o'clock UK time tomorrow. Do you think that's enough for today then, series?
Yeah.
Okay, I better come back and do what we usually do. Flat Earth hug.
Big hugs.
Wait a minute, series, I've got to wait for my camera to come back. You know me, I'm on the lagging. It's coming.
Yeah.
There I am. Anyway, from me and series
Big hugs.
to everyone in the chat room and everybody that's going to see this video afterwards. But hopefully that explains a little bit more. And we'll be back tomorrow, as I said, with FPV 9 o'clock UK time. And thanks very much for watching. So see you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.